Jaecoo versus Range Rover. This is weird. Didn't see this coming a few years ago, did we? So it turns out that some people are looking at this thing and thinking it's this thing, basically. Or at least that it's by the same company. Now I know, right? When you see them together, it doesn't quite add up, does it? But I promise you that out on the road, there is more than a hint of Range Rover about the Jaecoo 7 here. 3 separate people have said it since this car turned up at my house.
3 people!
And if you need any more proof than my anecdotal friends, I am assured by the leasing options search engine optimization massive that people are making this link. People are comparing these two cars. I mean, look at this Google autocomplete. So we've brought them both together. Let's unpack this. Unpack it like a Range Rover door handle. The exact door handle that the Jaecoo also has. But other than that, I mean, well, they're about the same size, and the glass at the side kind of goes up at a similar angle, and there's this bit at the back, and that's about it. And at the front, the only thing that the Jaecoo's grille evokes, pun lol, is HMP Pentonville. And behind these particular bars, inside the car I mean, there are no similarities to a Range Rover at all. But what actually is the Jaecoo? Because while I'm sure you'll know exactly what this is by now, this thing, maybe not. So Jaecoo is owned by an enormous Chinese car company called Chery Automotive. Now, Chery Automotive does have a manufacturing partnership with Jaguar Land Rover in China, which probably explains where they got the door handles from. And Chery has been open in the past about the influence that Jaguar Land Rover has had on its products. But Land Rover does not own Jaecoo. Anyway, Chery wanted to sell cars in Europe, so they did what any legit car conglomerate would do. They made up a couple of brands, one called Omoda and a slightly fancier one called Jaecoo. They made those companies specifically to sell SUVs because Europe loves an SUV. Also a descending sequence of numbers. It's the final countdown! Anyway, this happened all the way back in 2023. So yeah, there's no heritage here whatsoever. Just a bit of marketing. So we're told that this is supposed to be a bit posh-like, but the pricing, not so much, because you can get a Jaecoo 7 from £30,000, which is the same amount of money that you can pay for like a mid-spec Vauxhall Corsa. This thing, meanwhile, is like 2 Corsas. Well, not quite, obviously, but the Evoque starts at £45,000. And when you look at the lease prices, the gap is even wider. Here's the Evoque as of today, and here's the Jaecoo. Now that's amazing value for a car this size. And especially if you have friends and family and neighbours and colleagues who don't know much about cars. This is my new Range Rover. Yeah, that says Evoque. But at this price, it's got to be a bit naff, right? A bit rubbish. Or at very least have less equipment than an abandoned leisure centre. Nope. Look at all the standard stuff in the 30 grand car. Automatic tailgate, heated seats in the leather style, and the next level up, which is not that much more money, is luxury by name and nature. Well, maybe not quite by nature, but we'll come back to that. Let's move on to the legit Range Rover first. We don't need to go into the weeds here, do we? It's a Range Rover Evoque, but let's just have a quick reminder of just how popular this thing is and why. So, across 2 generations since 2011, more than 1 million Evoques have been sold. Now, this particular one came out in 2019, so even though it was updated quite recently, it is coming to the end of its life. But still, as the lowest cost new Range Rover, it's basically the second most aspirational object in mainstream UK, behind this bag for life. Now, neither is available as a full electric car, which in the Jaecoo's case is actually a bit surprising because most of these new Chinese cars tend to be all electric. But they are both electrified, which is to say they're both available as plug-in hybrids. And that means that we can actually compare these things like for like-ish. So let's make like turkey I'll shake and get these 2 big fellas together. It's the final countdown! Alright, so let's do this properly. Let's look at some of the important things that you'll want out of your new car and see which does what best. Head to head, 6 categories. Therefore making a draw the diplomatic result extremely possible. So, first up. So yeah, you can kind of guess what this is going to be like. It does exactly what you want from a Range Rover. High driving position, really good visibility, front anyway, back not so good. Light steering, soft ride quality. It's kind of the junior Range Rover that you want it to be. If you've ever been in a big Range Rover, the proper one, that car is a benchmark for what luxurious ride quality should feel like. A lot of that has kind of filtered down to this car. There's a real sense of sophistication to the way it goes over the road. There's very little outside noise for what is essentially a brick, right? Especially at high speed, you expect there to be loads of wind noise and road noise and stuff, but there just isn't. However, there is quite a lot of engine noise. 3-cylinder petrol engine. It's not quiet. It kind of sounds like a diesel. It's just below your expectations. It's below what you want from a car like this. You put your foot down, and that's a massive gap before it picks up and does anything. It kind of really bursts the bubble of refinement in this car. So first of all, the engine in this thing is much better. Surprised? Yeah, me too. Mostly, it's generally just much quieter, but also this car switches between its electric and its petrol mode, you know, the bit where the engine turns on, much more smoothly than the Range Rover does, much more discreetly. Yeah, smooth is the word. You put your foot down in this and it just does nothing. But aside from that, it is very clear that the developers of this car spend lots of time in an Evoque, and that's obviously a good thing. It has the same basic qualities, right? So the ride is really soft, really supple, the steering is really light and really vague. Same sort of driving position, you sit high up. Day to day, when you're just gently driving around going from point A to point B, this does feel like a lovely thing to be in. Unsurprisingly, though, probably, it feels kind of unsophisticated or slightly unsophisticated compared to the Range Rover in the way that it does everything. It's super vague. If you want to drive quickly, you would not enjoy doing it in this thing. The ride quality is the main thing where it kind of feels a bit less developed, a bit less sophisticated than the Range Rover. It's just really, really wobbly. And it's kind of a quality that's exacerbated at speed. It's a very difficult thing to do, to get ride quality that feels like really floaty and soft and lovely, while also having body control that's not all over the shop. The brakes feel kind of underdeveloped too. They're quite hard to modulate, pretty grabby. Oh yes, and an aside on the door handles. It is ironic that the part that Jaecoo lifted directly from Land Rover is the worst part of the car. You'll notice that I'm not driving, and it's because I'm about to demonstrate. So when you do pull away in this car, the door handles going back into the body are so loud, so undampened, that it genuinely feels like you've hit something. Check this out. Rattles the car. It's mad. Both of these actually suffer from the same issue of not feeling quite as spacious as you probably assume when you look at them. Up front though, no bother, lots of space. Not much interior storage, mind. Although the Jaecoo's glove box really made us laugh. I don't laugh at many glove boxes, believe it or not, but this one, it forces you to watch how well damped it is. You will look at this quality. You can't pull me down. Look at me damping. Look at me damping. Ooh. Anyways, this is me sat behind my driving position in the Evoque, and now the same thing in the Jaecoo. The Jaecoo is better. On boot space, both have massive tailgates, which is very helpful, and although the Range Rover's boot is slightly bigger by volume, when you drop the seats in both, only the Jaecoo's go properly flat. It's weird that the Evoque seats don't drop flat. Obviously, this feels higher quality, but also not that interesting. Feels a bit grey, feels a bit, it's age, basically. And I'm not going to say things about Range Rover reliability because you can Google that. Conversely, the Jaecoo here is probably a little bit above your expectations. There's a lot of soft touch stuff in here. It's quite nice. The cabin lighting's really lovely, and you can basically... Yes, this whole situation, we're going to talk about it. There's a lot of soft touch stuff in here. It's kind of nicer than you think it's going to be, and the cabin lighting's really good. You can basically have it in any colour. And the touch screen's all trendy. It's massive, and it's just generally a bit more interesting than the Range Rover's cabin, but without ever really being dazzling. And fun fact, if you get a basic petrol Jaecoo 7, it's got a slightly different interior to the plug-in hybrid one. An interior that's meant to evoke ruggedness. See? Fat gear selector. Screw heads. Rugged. They're both 5-star cars and both have loads of safety stuff, so it's harsh to pick one over the other, really. And the Jaecoo in particular has a staggering list of safety acronyms that do various active and passive things to keep you unharmed. But... yeah, but... this car has the most annoying attention alert system since Lloyd and Harry picked up that guy. It is just constantly telling you to pay attention, constantly. So, as you will no doubt be aware, these days, car user friendliness is no longer about where the buttons are physically placed. Rather, it's about how massive the screen in the middle is and how well the software engineers have done their job. Damn you, Tesla. So, which screen is the least sluggish and the least baffling to use? This one. Just. So the screens in both of these cars are actually among the better ones that you'll use. But also they do have their little issues, obviously. Some of these icons here are a little bit fiddly. Like if you want to adjust the aircon, it will then just start bonging at you straight away. It's not really the screen software itself that's a problem, as much as you just don't get any time to actually look at it before the car goes ballistic at you. On that basis, I could give it to this. There is no sense of impending doom when you're trying to figure out what to do on this screen. No sense that you're about to get screamed at. And it is much better than the stuff that Range Rover and Land Rover used to do, but it's still just a little bit menu heavy. Sometimes it takes a few taps to do something and you have to focus on it a little bit more than you want to, and the screens are looking small these days in the age of giant tellies stuck to the dashboards of cars. But it does have Alexa built into it, so if you don't like fanning around with the screen, you can tell Alexa to do things for you instead. A foregone conclusion, this one, right? But actually, the Jaecoo's plug-in hybrid setup, which is obviously in the cheaper car, looks a bit more sophisticated on paper at least than the Range Rover's plug-in hybrid setup does. It's got superior MPGs and it's got a longer electric-only range. It's also, again, a nicer setup generally. Although the Evoque is more powerful, so it's quicker, but still, we're talking money now. So... well, how utterly surprising. Now I imagine that if you already have one of these, you're probably a little bit indignant now for a few reasons. Fair enough, because actually this is the better car generally. And it is of course, well not of course, but it is probably the one that you'll want. If you're just given a straight choice between this and the Jaecoo, you're going to want this. But I would argue that that view is a lot more conceptual than it is actual, you know, because there's the heritage there and people just like expensive stuff. What's also weird is that the Jaecoo really is like a Nissan Qashqai type car. It's like a mid-level crossover. What's happened is that accidentally or otherwise, it looks like a Range Rover a little bit, and therefore people have made that leap. All of a sudden, it's an Evoque rival. So for me, the fact that the Jaecoo is even close to being in the same league as this thing, it kind of says more about this car's shortcomings than it does about the Jaecoo being brilliant, you know what I mean. And actually, there are a lot of SUV-shaped cars like this that are non-premium, quote unquote, and you can get for about 35 grand, that are better than the Jaecoo here in a variety of ways. The Peugeot 3008, the Cupra Ateca, the Kia Sportage, the Hyundai Tucson, the Volkswagen Tiguan, the Skoda Kodiaq, this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing. So you hear Range Rover versus Jaecoo and you think little guy versus big, no, the other way around. Big guy versus little guy. Big guy should win, right? Every time. But then when the big guy gets shaken by the little guy, you're like, whoa, what's happening here? So I found myself in this strange area of cognitive dissonance where I genuinely believe that the Jaecoo 7, a 30 grand car, is in the same league as and is actually a rival to the Range Rover Evoque. And not only that, I think it's a good alternative. Weird. Do you believe it? So there you go, that's a conclusion of sorts. If you want to lease one of these, do it at Leasing Options. Great deals, great prices, great customer service. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Cheers. Doing great.